I had exactly $847,000 worth of other people's dreams riding on my event management software when I walked into that Roman restaurant and realized my seat was missing. $847,000. That's what Eleanor Caldwell's 70th birthday week was worth in vendor contracts, deposits, and reputation insurance. My company's money, my professional credibility, my name on every invoice, every agreement, every beautifully orchestrated lie that this family still had the wealth to match their arrogance. The champagne glass in my hand felt heavier than it should have as I stood there, staring at the empty space where my chair should have been. 12 seats around that table, 12 place settings with hand-calligraphed cards, 12 family members who just watched me count wrong. My husband Sean's chuckle landed like ice water down my spine. Oops, guess we miscounted. The family laughed, not cruelly, not obviously, but with that gentle amusement you'd use with a confused child. And that's when I knew. This wasn't an oversight. This was the finale. I set down the champagne glass next to Eleanor's white peonies. Their scent was suffocating, sweet, and funeral-ready. Seems I'm not family, I said. Then I walked out. What they didn't know was that I had 30 minutes before the restaurant's payment authorization expired. 30 minutes before the event management app I'd built my career on would ping every vendor in Eleanor's birthday week asking for deposit confirmation. And I was the only person with override access. Let me take you back to where this really started. Not at that table in Rome, but 18 months earlier, when I first realized the Caldwell fortune was a performance. My name is Anna Morgan Caldwell. 5 years ago, I was just Anna Morgan, the woman who turned Boston's charity galas into legendary events. I didn't come from money. I came from a one-bedroom apartment in Dorchester and night classes at Northeastern, building elite affairs from a laptop in my mother's kitchen. The Caldwells were the kind of clients you dream about landing. Old Boston money. Shipping fortunes. Last names on hospital wings. When Eleanor hired me to plan her annual museum benefit, I thought I'd made it. When her son Sean asked me to dinner 6 months later, I thought I'd won the lottery. Red flag number 1. Eleanor's smile when Sean introduced me as more than his event planner. Self-made success is so American, she'd said, her diamond necklace catching the light. You've done well for yourself, dear. I ignored it. I was in love. Sean seemed different from his family, warmer, less obsessed with pedigree. When he proposed 11 months in, I said yes despite the warning signs written in his mother's tight-lipped approval. The wedding was beautiful. I made sure of that. But planning your own wedding when your future mother-in-law questions every choice is like performing surgery on yourself. Eleanor wanted traditional. I wanted authentic. Sean wanted peace. Peace, I learned, meant I compromised. Always. After the wedding, the pattern calcified. The Caldwells used my company for every event, but treated my expertise like a parlor trick. Anna has such a good eye, Eleanor would tell her friends, patting my hand. It's almost like having a professional in the family. I was a professional. That was the point. Sean never defended me. That's just how Mother is, he'd say, loosening his tie after another dinner where my opinions were solicited then dismissed. Don't take it personally. But it was personal. It became more personal every time Eleanor changed my seating charts, every time Richard second-guessed my vendor selections, every time Sean's sister Melissa took credit for my design concepts at her own events. The golden child versus scapegoat dynamic wasn't subtle. At family dinners, Melissa's marketing job at a nonprofit was vital community service. My thriving business was Anna's little hobby. When Thomas joined his father's investment firm, it was champagne and toasts. When I landed my biggest client, a Fortune 500 company's annual conference, Eleanor asked if I'd still have time for family obligations. The cruelty was calm. That was the worst part. No yelling, no drama. Just a systematic erosion of my dignity, presented as concern. We worry you're spreading yourself too thin, dear. Sean needs a wife who can prioritize him. Perhaps if you simplified your business, you'd have more time for what really matters. What really mattered, of course, was being available to plan their events, manage their social calendar, and maintain the illusion that the Caldwell family still operated at the level their reputation suggested. Because by year 3 of my marriage, I'd started noticing the cracks. delayed payments to vendors, invoices that mysteriously went to the family accountant instead of being paid directly. Richard's tight jaw when restaurant bills arrived. The way Eleanor's jewelry rotations started repeating the same pieces at every event, never anything new. When Eleanor asked me to plan her 70th birthday celebration in Rome, I should have seen it coming. A week-long extravaganza, private tours, Michelin-starred dinners, a finale at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the Colosseum. "Spare no expense," she'd said, her hand clutching mine. "This is my legacy moment, Anna. I'm trusting you." The budget she suggested was $200,000. The reality, once I'd built the actual itinerary she demanded, was closer to $850,000. "Use your company's credit line for deposits," Richard had suggested smoothly. "We'll wire you the full amount before the first event. It's simpler for international vendors." That should have been red flag number 17, but I was still trying to earn their acceptance. Still believing that if I just planned the perfect celebration, proved my worth one more time, they'd finally see me as family. I secured everything through Elite Affairs. My reputation, my professional network, my financial guarantee. And then, 3 days before our flight to Rome, I found the messages. Sean was in the shower. His phone sat on the nightstand, buzzing with a text preview that destroyed my marriage in 12 words. "V, can't wait to see you in Rome. Have you told her yet?" My hands moved on autopilot, opening the thread, scrolling back through months of messages with Vanessa Hughes, Sean's college girlfriend, the woman Eleanor had always preferred, the one they'd expected him to marry before he strayed to me. Plans made, a future discussed, and yes, the baby, their baby, due in 4 months. I took screenshots, forwarded them to my personal email, deleted the evidence from his sent folder. Then I sat on the edge of our bed, listening to the shower run, and made a decision. I wouldn't confront him. Not yet. I would go to Rome. I would see exactly what they had planned for me, and then I would decide what they deserved. The phone vibrated in my hand one more time. Another message from Vanessa. "Your mom is so excited to have me at the birthday dinner. It's going to be perfect." That's when I started laughing. Quietly, so Sean wouldn't hear over the shower. Because it all made sense now. The birthday celebration wasn't Eleanor's legacy moment. It was my exit interview. The flight to Rome was surreal. I smiled at the right moments, made small talk with Melissa, complimented Eleanor's travel outfit. Inside, I was cataloging evidence. Sean's phone habits, the way he angled away from me to text, the sudden work calls in the hotel lobby. Richard's tension whenever money came up. Eleanor's barely contained excitement, like she was counting down to something. On our second night, while the family went to an impromptu dinner I mysteriously hadn't been invited to, I used the hotel business center to print out the messages I'd sent myself. Then I searched Sean's briefcase. He'd left it unlocked. Careless, or maybe he thought I'd never look. Inside, I found the script for my humiliation. Literally, an actual document, formatted like a screenplay, outlining how Sean would announce our mutual decision to divorce at Eleanor's birthday dinner in front of the whole family, framed as an amicable parting. We've grown apart. Anna's career demands, no fault of hers, grateful for the time we had. The supporting documents were worse. Draft separation papers dated 2 months earlier. A settlement offer so insulting it made my teeth ache, $50, 000, and a mutual NDA in exchange for me walking away from 5 years of marriage and any claim to Caldwell assets. And finally, bank statements showing what those assets actually were: mortgaged properties, maxed credit lines, offshore accounts that Richard had been using to hide the family's financial collapse. The Caldwell fortune was dying. And I was the fall girl. Because Vanessa Hughes came from money. Real money. New money that was still growing, not old money eroding into dust. Her father was a tech investor. Her family had what the Caldwells needed, cash to prop up the illusion for another generation. Eleanor's birthday celebration wasn't about celebrating Eleanor. It was about laundering the switch, out with the working-class event planner, in with the socially acceptable heiress. Make it public, make it civilized, make it look like my choice. I photographed every page, every bank statement, every email printout, every handwritten note from Eleanor discussing once this unpleasantness with Anna is behind us. Then I went back to our suite, climbed into bed next to my husband, and slept better than I had in months. Because now I knew exactly what they'd taken from me, and I knew exactly what it would cost them to get it back. The morning of Eleanor's birthday, I woke up at dawn. Sean was still asleep, his phone charging on the nightstand. I resisted the urge to throw it out the window. Instead, I went down to the hotel business center and logged into the event management software I'd built Elite Affairs on. Every vendor, every contract, every deposit linked to my company's account, authorized under my name, trackable through automated confirmation emails that vendors would receive if payment authorization lapsed. I'd designed this system myself. It was foolproof for legitimate clients. For people planning to betray me, it was a ticking time bomb. I pulled up the payment schedules. The restaurant tonight, the vineyard tomorrow, the Vatican tour, the yacht, the villa in Tuscany, all of it secured with deposits ranging from 30% to 50%. All of it set to send reauthorization requests today. All I had to do was revoke my company's guarantee. The system would handle the rest. But I didn't do it yet. I wanted to see their faces when they realized there was no chair for me. I wanted that moment seared into my memory. So I closed my laptop, went back upstairs, and put on the midnight blue Valentino gown I'd bought specifically for this night. If this was my exit from the Caldwell family, I'd look flawless doing it. We met in the hotel lobby at 6 p.m. Eleanor was radiant in vintage Chanel, her diamonds catching the chandelier light. The family gathered around her, Richard, Melissa, Thomas, and their spouses, plus Sean's aunts and uncles who'd flown in for the celebration. Sean's eyes widened when he saw me. For a moment, something like regret flickered across his face. Then Eleanor called him over, and the moment passed. The drive to Aroma restaurant took 12 minutes. I counted. In that time, Melissa mentioned 3 inside jokes from previous family trips I hadn't been invited to. Thomas discussed the villa in Tuscany like I wasn't in the car. Eleanor talked about tomorrow's surprise, a reference to something everyone but me seemed to understand. I said nothing, just watched Rome slide past the window, golden and ancient and indifferent to American family drama. The restaurant was perfect. I'd made sure of that. Rooftop terrace, panoramic view of the Colosseum, white peonies and roses on every surface. The scent hit me as soon as we stepped off the elevator, sweet, overwhelming, funereal. Eleanor entered first, greeted with applause from the family already gathered at the table. I followed behind Sean, watching as everyone found their assigned seats. 12 chairs, 12 place settings, 12 names on hand-calligraphed cards. My card wasn't there. I stood in the space where my seat should have been, feeling 12 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Not concerned, not surprised, just waiting. Is something wrong? Eleanor asked, her voice carrying just enough to draw attention. There seems to be a mistake, I said calmly. My place setting is missing. Furrowed brows. Exchanged glances. Sean half rising from his chair with an expression of practiced concern that never reached his eyes. That's odd, Melissa said, examining the table. Did someone count wrong? Perhaps there was a miscommunication with the restaurant staff, Richard suggested. And then Sean delivered his line. Oops, guess we miscounted. The family laughed. Gently. Like this was an amusing accident. In that moment, standing in my $3,000 Valentino gown in front of a table set for everyone except me, I felt something shift. Not heartbreak, not rage, just a profound, clarifying calm. They'd scripted this. Every confused face, every faux-concerned question, every bit of this performance was designed to make me feel small enough to leave quietly. I picked up Eleanor's champagne glass closest to where my seat should have been and set it down next to the white peonies. Seems I'm not family, I said. Then I walked away. Behind me, I heard Sean call out, Anna, don't be dramatic. We can fix this. I didn't respond. I just kept walking through the restaurant, past the maitre d' who'd confirmed my seating chart that afternoon, into the elevator that carried me down to street level. My phone was in my hand before the elevator doors closed. I had 28 minutes before the payment authorization window expired. 28 minutes before every vendor in Eleanor's birthday week received an automated notification that Elite Affairs was withdrawing its financial guarantee. 28 minutes to make sure the Caldwells understood exactly what family meant. There was a cafe across from Aroma with a perfect view of the restaurant entrance. I ordered an espresso, sat at an outdoor table, and opened my event management app. The payment dashboard glowed in the fading Roman sunlight. 12 active contracts, $847,000 in total obligations, all of it secured by my company's credit line and professional reputation. My finger hovered over the revoke button. I thought about Sean's face when I'd caught the champagne glass bouquet at Melissa's wedding, how he looked at me like I'd won something precious. I thought about Eleanor's hand on mine during our engagement dinner. Welcome to the family, dear. I thought about the missing chair. I pressed revoke. The system processed instantly. 12 automated emails dispatched to 12 vendors, informing them that Elite Affairs was withdrawing authorization and that the Caldwell family would need to provide alternative payment arrangements to continue services. Then I started making calls. Marco? This is Anna Morgan. Yes, I'm well, thank you. I need to discuss tonight's event at Aroma. Yes, there's been a change. The Caldwells will be providing their own payment guarantee from this point forward. My company can no longer authorize charges on their behalf. I understand it's unusual. The authorization window expires in 25 minutes. After that, you'll need direct payment to continue service. Yes, I have documentation. I'm emailing it now. The Vineyard tomorrow. There's been a family emergency. I need to cancel the reservation and process the deposit refund to Elite Affairs. Yes, the full amount. Today, the Vatican tour, the yacht captain, the villa in Tuscany. One by one, I systematically dismantled the week I'd spent 4 months building. With each call, I felt lighter. My phone started vibrating. Sean calling. I declined and watched the screen light up with increasingly frantic texts. Anna, where are you? Stop being childish and come back. Mother is upset you're embarrassing yourself. Then, 5 minutes later, the hotel just called. They said our reservation for tomorrow is canceled. What are you doing? I sipped my espresso and texted back. All deposits have been returned to my company account. All arrangements for the week canceled. Your family financial issues are about to become very public. Enjoy your caviar. Through the cafe window, I could see the restaurant entrance. Any moment now, Marco would be approaching the Caldwell table with some very uncomfortable news. My phone rang. Sean again. This time I answered. Anna. His voice shook with barely controlled fury. What the hell do you think you're doing? Seems I'm not family, Sean. So I'm not responsible for family celebrations. You need to fix this right now. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is for my mother? For all of us. I have exactly the idea. That was the point. Where are you? Desperation crept into his voice. We need to talk. I can explain about Vanessa, about everything, I'm sure you can. The problem is, I've seen the financial statements, Sean. I've seen the emails. I know the Caldwell empire is crumbling. And I know you've been hiding assets offshore before filing for divorce. His sharp intake of breath told me everything. Those were private, yes, they were. Just like the text messages from Vanessa about the baby. Just like the script for announcing our divorce at your mother's birthday dinner. Just like the seating arrangement deliberately excluding me. Silence on the line. Anna, please. You don't understand what this will do to us. I understand perfectly. That's why I did it. I ended the call. Across the street, I could see movement near the restaurant entrance. Someone, looked like Thomas, was on his phone, pacing frantically. Through the cafe window, the scene had all the hallmarks of controlled chaos. I left cash on the table for my espresso, smoothed my Valentino gown, and walked back across the street. Time for my curtain call. The elevator to the rooftop terrace felt longer this time. When the doors opened, I stepped into a scene of barely contained disaster. The Caldwells were clustered around their table in various states of distress. Richard was arguing with Marco in hushed, urgent tones. Eleanor sat rigidly upright, one hand clutching her diamond necklace like it might save her. Melissa was frantically whispering to her husband. Thomas had his phone pressed to his ear. And Sean stood frozen near his chair, face pale, watching the elevator doors with the expression of a man watching his execution approach. 12 pairs of eyes turned to me. Eleanor spoke first, her voice shaking with fury barely masked as confusion. "Anna, thank God you're back. There seems to be some terrible misunderstanding with the restaurant." "Not a misunderstanding, Eleanor. A correction." I walked toward the table, not to my missing seat, but to the empty space where it should have been. The white peonies still sat in their perfect arrangement. Their scent made my eyes water. "What have you done?" Richard demanded, stepping between me and Eleanor like I was some kind of threat. "I've withdrawn Elite Affairs' financial guarantee for this event. And for every event this week. The vineyard, the Vatican tour, the yacht, the villa in Tuscany, all canceled. All deposits returned to my company account." "You had no right," Melissa started. "I had every right," I interrupted. "Every contract, every reservation, every arrangement was made in my name or my company's name. I simply adjusted the plans." "You'll regret this," Thomas said, his face flushed. "When Sean divorces you, you'll get nothing." "That's where you're wrong." I looked directly at Sean. "I have copies of everything. The offshore accounts, the hidden assets, the fraudulent business dealings. I'm sure the IRS will find it all fascinating reading." Their faces turned ghostly white. The weight of what I just said settled over the table like ash. Richard sank into his chair. Eleanor's hand trembled against her necklace. Even Melissa had the grace to look horrified. "But that's not why I came back up here," I continued. "I came back to tell you that Marco has agreed to continue your dinner service if you can provide payment within the next 15 minutes. I believe Eleanor has a lovely Bulgari bracelet that might serve as collateral." Eleanor's other hand flew to her wrist, where a vintage gold bracelet sat, probably worth $30,000, definitely her most treasured piece from her own mother. "You can't do this," she whispered. "I just did. Happy birthday, Eleanor." I turned toward the elevator. Behind me, Sean called out one more time, "Anna, please." I didn't look back. The elevator doors closed on the image of 12 people gathered around a table set for celebration, their perfect facade crumbling in real time. My phone vibrated as I reached the lobby. A text from Marco. "They have provided alternative payment. Dinner will continue. I hope you find peace, Signora." I texted back, "Thank you, Marco. I already have." I left Italy the next morning on a first-class flight to Boston, paid for with points I'd accumulated planning the Caldwell family's previous vacations. The irony wasn't lost on me. My phone filled with messages throughout the flight. "Richard, this is actionable. Our lawyers will be in touch. Melissa, you've made the biggest mistake of your life. Eleanor, I always knew you were common. This vindictive display only proves it." And from Sean, a cascade of texts that told the Real story. "My father had a minor heart episode. Is that what you wanted? The Prescotts and Whitmore saw everything. Do you know what this means for our standing? The hotel is demanding payment for the entire week up front. They say all guarantees have been canceled, finally. Please, Anna, I need to talk to you. It's about more than us now." I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded all the financial documents I'd photographed to my lawyer with instructions to hold them securely unless the Caldwells pursued litigation. When I landed in Boston, I went straight to our Beacon Hill brownstone with a moving company. I packed only what was unquestionably mine: clothes, jewelry I'd bought myself, my collection of first edition books, artwork I'd acquired before the marriage. Everything else, the wedding gifts, the jointly purchased furniture, the Caldwell family heirlooms I'd been gifted, I left behind. I wanted nothing that could tie me to their world. 2 days later, the Boston Globe ran a small item in the business section: Investment Group faces inquiry. It didn't mention the Caldwells by name, but everyone who needed to know would understand. By the end of the week, 3 board members had resigned from Richard's firm. 2 major donors pulled out of Eleanor's upcoming charity gala. And Vanessa Hughes was spotted leaving her obstetrician's office wearing an engagement ring. The timeline made it clear to anyone paying attention. Sean's affair had started long before our marriage ended. Sean appeared at my new apartment 1 week after Rome. He looked terrible: disheveled hair, wrinkled shirt, the polished veneer of privilege replaced by raw desperation. "You need to come home," he said the moment I opened the door. "This has gone far enough. This isn't a negotiation tactic, Sean. This is divorce." He pushed past me into the apartment, running his hands through his hair. "The SEC is looking into father's accounts. 2 board members have resigned. Mother had to cancel her charity gala because 3 major donors pulled out. That sounds like a Caldwell family problem. Not mine. It's your problem if I go down with the ship. We're still married. My debts are your debts." I almost laughed. "Not when I have proof that you deliberately excluded me from financial decisions and hid assets with the intent to defraud me in divorce proceedings. My lawyer assures me that's enough to protect me." His facade cracked completely then. Sean sank onto my couch, head in his hands. "I never wanted it to be like this. What did you want, Sean? To marry me for my event planning skills? To use me to manage your social calendar while you reconnected with Vanessa? To discard me when I was no longer useful? It wasn't like that. In the beginning, I did love you. But not enough to stand up to your family. Not enough to be honest about your affair." I sat across from him in the apartment I'd rented with my own money, smaller than our brownstone, but mine alone. "When is the baby due?" I asked quietly. His head snapped up. "How did you for months, according to the texts I saw?" "Congratulations." A heavy silence fell between us. Outside, rain began to tap against the windows of my new apartment. "I'll give you whatever you want," Sean finally said. "Just hand over those documents and sign an NDA. Name your price." And that was the moment I realized they still didn't understand me at all. After 5 years, the Caldwells still saw me as someone who could be bought. Someone motivated by the same material concerns that drove their entire existence. "I don't want your money, Sean. I want my freedom. I want the truth acknowledged." I stood up, indicating our conversation was ending. "The documents stay with my lawyer unless you try to drag me down with you. The divorce terms are simple. I walk away with what's mine, you with what's yours. And Vanessa?" His voice was barely audible. "The baby? That's between you and your conscience. I hope you'll be a better husband to her than you were to me." After he left, I stood by the window watching rain streak down the glass. My phone vibrated with another message, this time from my lawyer confirming that the Caldwell's attorney had reached out requesting settlement negotiations. They wanted this over quietly. No scandal, no public documentation, no exposure of the financial house of cards they'd been building. I texted back, standard divorce terms. I keep elite affairs and all business assets. Split of personal property already completed. No alimony requested either direction. They pay their own legal fees. An hour later, my lawyer confirmed. They'd agreed. The divorce was finalized without drama. The Caldwells, focused on salvaging their reputation and finances, accepted my terms without argument. Sean and Vanessa married quietly 3 months later. Their daughter was born 2 weeks after the wedding. I sent no gift. My business thrived. Clients who had once looked down on me now appreciated my discretion and integrity. The story that circulated through Boston society circles wasn't about a woman scorned. It was about a professional who refused to be used and discarded. 6 months after Rome, I received an invitation that made me laugh out loud, a request to bid on planning Eleanor Caldwell's next charity event. Apparently, desperation had overcome pride. I declined politely, citing a full schedule. 1 year after that night at a Roma restaurant, I found myself back in Italy, this time planning a celebrity wedding on the Amalfi Coast. As I stood on a terrace overlooking the Mediterranean, phone in hand, vendors at my command, I realized something unexpected. I was happy, not despite the collapse of my marriage, but because of it. The Caldwells had tried to make me feel small, to reduce me to an accessory in their grand narrative. Instead, they'd inadvertently freed me to reclaim my story. I raised my glass of Prosecco to the setting sun, toasting the missing chair that had shown me exactly where I belonged, not at a table where I had to earn my seat, but building my own table on my own terms. The white peonies in the wedding arrangements smelled just as sweet as they had that night in Rome. But this time, I was the one who'd chosen them. This time, every detail was mine, and that made all the difference. So here's what I learned. Sometimes the people who should protect you are the ones who hurt you most. Sometimes the family you marry into will never see you as family. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is the courage to walk away from a table where you're not truly welcome. The Caldwells taught me that dignity isn't about being accepted. It's about knowing your worth, even when everyone around you is determined to diminish it. That missing chair in Rome? It wasn't an ending. It was permission to finally leave. If you've ever felt like an outsider in places that should feel like home, I want you to know you're not the problem. The table is. And you deserve better. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from people who claimed to value you but treated you as disposable? Drop your story in the comments. You might help someone else find the courage to leave their own missing chair behind. And if this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. Because there are more stories coming about people who chose themselves when everyone else chose differently. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next one.